Bring it on in. Bring it on in. Good, better, best. Good, better, best. Never let it rest. Never let it rest. Any good gets better. Any good gets better. Any better gets better. Any better gets better. Bears on three. 1, 2, 3. Bears!
Yo! Welcome back to another episode of the Jack Mallers Show. I am your host, Jack. Good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good gets better and you stack all the motherfucking sats. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm fired up. We got Jerome Powell making hostage videos. The Chicago Bears are in the divisional round of the playoffs. All you Packer fans in my comments, shut the fuck up. Let's go. Hey, we got a really big episode today. There's a lot of macro. I'm back in the empty closet, so I'm going to hit the ground running. I'm going to hit the ground sprinting. I'm talking to you all at a Bitcoin price of $91,070 US. That puts Bitcoin's market cap at a mere 1.82 trillion. We remain significantly down from our all-time high. We're 27.8% down from all-time high, which is $126,160. Still less than 100 days since that all-time high. Really not that far away. It sure feels like it, though, if you hang out on the internet. We made the all-time high on October 6th, 2025. What about the Bitcoin block height? Does anyone know the last Bitcoin block mined since I hit stream? Doesn't matter because I'm about to tell you. It's Bitcoin block 932,039. All right, boys and girls, sit down, take out your notebook. We're about to fucking rip. Here's the deal. I call this episode Bitcoin at the Turning Point. Really, I think we're living through the most fascinating timeline ever. I mean, can I just open and say, what a blessing to be alive right now. Because here, listen, I get it. We could doom, we can gloom on this show. No problem. You want to feel bad about yourself? You want to feel bad for yourself? We could do that if you want. But that's everywhere you turn and you look. Yes, real wage growth is down. Yes, assassination attempts are up. Political infighting is up. War is up. Everything, you sure. But how about this? How about the story of humanity is the story of engineering. It's the story of engineering a better world. None of us are going to live forever. We're only here for a blip in time that's part of a larger story of our species. And the mere fact that we get to participate in this timeline during the death of fiat, during the creation of Bitcoin, during artificial intelligence, there is no better timeline. If you're a soldier, if you're a fighter, if you're ambitious, if you're moral, if you're ethical, if you're good, if you care, if you want to win, this is the game. This is it. This is the Super Bowl. So this is Bitcoin at the turning point. Okay? So first things first, the politicians are going to politic. So let's set the stage. What am I referring to? Why is this timeline so insane? First of all, I think we just have to note and remind listeners, because I think 50% of you guys are Americans and then the other half you aren't. The U.S. has midterms coming up at the end of this year, November, okay? On the prediction markets, the Democratic Party has almost an 80% chance at winning the House, okay? Why is this relevant if the Democratic Party wins the House? Well, let's hear from the President of the United States himself on why this would be so relevant.
But you got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached. We don't impeach them. You know why? Because they're meaner than we are. We should have impeached Joe Biden for 100 different things. But
so you heard it from the President of the United States, the man himself. He thinks if the Republicans don't win the midterms, he will get impeached, which this is the most insane timeline because the question then is, what does that even mean? He got impeached last time. Did anything actually happen? But to keep this high level and to keep everyone included and on the same page, for Trump to get impeached, it would mean he gets kicked out of being the president effectively. Okay? So now whether he's right or not, whether being impeached or not matters. The point is the president of the United States and the leader of the Republican Party believes, this is all that matters, he believes that if he does not win midterms, he will be impeached. I don't think one of the most fascinating parts of what's going down in Washington, in America, in the White House, is that our president views himself as a historical figure. Here's my weekly disclaimer. I'm not a I'm not a politic guy. I did not vote. Go ahead, please. Actually, moment of silence for all the people that leave comments giving me political advice because I don't give a shit about what they have to say about my politics. I don't think politics matter. Politics will not change the world in a positive way, has not changed the world in a positive way, and we need to engineer a better world with open source software. So we're going to do a 5-second moment of silence for all of you politic idiots that are going to go down on YouTube right now and write me a comment. We'll give you guys 5 seconds, okay? Go. Now that you've got that out of the way, the point is the president of the United States views himself as a historical figure. The president of the United States has shown that he is willing to go to extreme levels to prove that. The president of the United States believes he will be impeached if he loses midterms. Midterms are at the end of this year. We've talked on and on and on and on. Bitcoin is the best expression of currency debasement. It's the best expression of money printing. Bitcoin is very simply priced on future expectations of fiat supply. Say, why is the Bitcoin price up? Why is the Bitcoin price down? Bitcoin moves as they create more or delete more dollars. Period. It's some combination of technology plus fiat liquidity. People will say, is it a tech stock? People will say, is it trading like gold as an alternative neutral system? And the answer is both. Okay. And so this is a huge year, and we need to set the tone by understanding we are in midterm year. The Democrats have an 80% chance to win according to open markets. Trump feels the pressure. The administration was not able to make a lot of progress in 2025, and it depends on which side you sit. If you're a Republican, you say, well, the Fed is acting as political Democrats. The tariff stuff is being fought over in court. Everyone's getting in his way. He's trying. He's making good progress. The market hasn't appreciated it. And against all the, headwinds in his face, he's doing his best. If you're a Democrat, you're saying this egomaniacal son of a gun overpromises, underdelivers. Remember when he said that Elon Musk was going to, run our budget like a startup and fix everything? What a moron. The point is, it doesn't matter. The Dems are going to win the midterms if nothing changes. He's going to get aggressive. What would that aggression look like? Well, what a Sunday it was where the sitting chair of the Federal Reserve posted a hostage video, effectively, to Twitter. I mean, you have got to be kidding me. This is the best timeline to ever be having a pulse. I mean, what are the odds that we are all alive right now? I'm having so much fun. Okay, we're going to be positive on this podcast. You get your doom and gloom dose of I feel bad for myself, woe is me. Get that elsewhere. This is unbelievable. I mean, we got to spend the 2 minutes and listen to it. I'm sorry. This is going to be a long episode. Sue me. You don't pay for it. I don't make any money on it. It is what it is. We're having a ball. We're going to take all minute and 56 seconds and listen to this hostage video by Chair Powell.
Good evening. On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned, in part, a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jerome. I mean, if you turn up the volume loud enough, you can hear him choking on his saliva. Unbelievable timeline we're living through. So what's going on? Trump is going after the guy legally for spending too much money building his office. I mean, this is outrageous. Now, here's what we you can't make it up. Look, also, before I move on, what clown world? These people, guys, money is your time and energy in an abstracted form. Everyone listening to this, here's the coolest thing about the industry we're in, the revolution we're trying to build, the businesses I run. Everyone listening to this, everyone uses money. There is nobody alive that doesn't use money. You see, money is a foundational technology that supports our society, period. It's like water. If we don't have water, we die. Everyone seems to understand that. But what people don't seem to understand yet is if you don't have good money, you also die. There is no such thing as like, oh, I know most people use money. It's just not my thing. No. You have to use money if you want to function in a society larger than like 100 people. If you check our population, it's at about 8 billion. Money is your time and energy in an abstracted form. You get up, you go to work, you contribute value, and you get money. These idiots determine how valuable the money is that you're getting. This is clown world. These are morons. These are not serious people. You have to laugh at that. If you buy Bitcoin, you store it in your own custody, and you live a self-sovereign life, you laugh at these clowns. If you don't, you cry. Which path, Western man? All right, now for commentary on what's going on, here's the deal. You know, you got everyone that wants to be a warrior on the internet saying, you know, you got all the fucking Jim Cramers of the world. I stand with Fed independence. How dare Washington threaten Fed independence? Hey, jackass, The Fed is not independent, nor has it been arguably forever. How do I know that? Well, elementary math, okay? This tweet from Luke Gromen, it doesn't get any more simple than this. With U.S. debt to GDP at over 120% and U.S. true interest expense over 100% of receipts, Fed independence to set rates means the Fed de facto sets U.S. domestic economic policy and U.S. foreign policy because Fed rate hikes raise interest expense, crowding out entitlements, defense, and foreign aid. Now, this is a show by the common man for the common man. This is a show by the guy that was in Soldier Field when we beat the Green Bay Packers, and I watched you sorry, fat, cheese curd, beer sucking motherfuckers have to go back to Wisconsin, and then I sit in the chair and I explain how the world works and how the financial system is failing and Bitcoin is going to save us all for the common man. Let me break this down for the common man. What is the U.S. debt to GDP ratio? Why is that so important? Well, debt to GDP ratio tells us very simply how much debt have we accumulated, how much have we borrowed from our future versus how much growth we are producing to pay it back. It's a very simple metric that tells us, are we able to pay back what we've borrowed based on the growth we're producing today? When you have a number that's over 120%, the answer to that is overwhelmingly no. We have zero chance at paying back and making whole on the $38+ trillion worth of debt we've accumulated. And by the way, our run rate for deficit is over $2 trillion annually. Okay? U.S. true interest expense being over 100% of receipts. What does that mean, Jack? That means the cost of interest on our $38 trillion. So the interest payment, it is not free for us to borrow from the future, okay? We pay an expense to pull our future forward and spend it today, right? How expensive? Well, it is over 100% of our receipts, of our revenue. So when you have debt to GDP at over 120%, and when your interest expense alone, guys, not our defense budget, not our Social Security budget, not Health and Human Services, just the interest on our $38 trillion of debt, we cannot pay with receipts alone. So understand this. The Federal Reserve, in setting interest rates, defines U.S. economic policy, U.S. foreign policy, the U.S.'s ability to defend itself. So mathematically, the Fed is the furthest thing from independent because these degenerate gamblers, these degenerate politicians have run the Great West and the United States of America, the greatest startup idea in the world, into the fucking debt-ridden ground. So you don't get your virtue signaling blue, you got all these old white bald guys in blue suits on television. Oh, but the Fed's independence. Hey, jackass, the Fed has never been independent and they're not independent. Now we have to admit it. Okay? Does it mean what Trump is doing is good? No, I didn't say that. But you want the truth. Mathematically, the Fed can't be independent. I don't know what to tell you. I've got so many tabs open that it froze again. It does this sometimes. So you guys are going to have to bear with me while I reboot it. Okay. So as we go on and we continue to examine what the internet thinks it understands versus what it clearly doesn't. I mean, Fed independence. Give me a fucking break. You got a $38 trillion indebted, drunken country that is addicted to spending money. And you think the people that set interest rates is independent? I mean, like, be a serious person for 1 second. For 1 second, can the old men, like these guys, couldn't even ride a bike across Chicago. I mean, these guys, like these old politicians, they literally look like they could peel over and die any day now. These are not serious people. Okay, this tweet from Joseph: Powell is taking a stand, but I don't see many senators standing with him. I think the reason is that lower interest rates are broadly popular. If that is what the public wants, then Jerome Powell will be standing alone. You guys want to know what's super interesting? Elizabeth Warren spoke out today. Did she stand with Jerome Powell? Where's AOC? Where's Bernie Sanders? Where's Barack Obama? Again, I'm not a political guy. I'm not saying what Trump is doing is right. In fact, the next slide is Scott Bessent doesn't think what Trump is doing is right. The guy wants to be a historical figure, and he will do anything in his power to make it happen. But the point is very simple. Politicians will politic. Make no mistake, these people want to fuck you. They want to set interest rates as low as possible and debase the money you're getting paid to cover all of the debt they create. They will stop at nothing to get elected. All this Fed independence, virtue signaling nonsense. The Fed's not independent, and all the people you vote for, where are they? Where are they? And even the CFO of the United States, the Treasury Secretary of the United States of America, told the news today that the president made a mess. These are not serious people. These people should not be setting what it costs to exchange time and energy, both amongst each other and into the future. We must build and protect a neutral way to do this that is inclusive and fair for all, or we will get crushed. The fate of, I kid you not, I swear to God, the fate of humanity is up to us. That's why this is the best timeline to be living through. But you have to take that responsibility seriously. Guys, nobody is going to save you. You know, you got all these people in my comments. You know, it's as if like they're going to suck their thumb nervously. I'm going to cradle them like a little baby. No, nobody's going to save you. Some myth you were told that if you vote for the right politician and you get all your homework done in university while accumulating piles and piles of debt, that people will save you and get you the house and the 2-car garage and the wife that loves you. No. Human prosperity will be restored when self-responsibility is treated properly again. Okay, we go on. So, what else is going on in this monstrosity? Well, industrial policy is back. It has returned. So, Trump had a series of posts along with attacking the Fed chair over his building renovation budget. Let's go through them. So, the first one. All United States defense contractors and defense industry as a whole, beware. While we make the best military equipment in the world, no other country is even close, defense contractors are currently issuing massive dividends to their shareholders and massive stock buybacks at the expense and detriment of investing in plants and equipment. This situation will no longer be allowed or tolerated. Okay, let me just pause there for a second. You have the United States of America and the President of the United States of America saying, you know how you are running your business, which is your property, that's your company and your cash flow and your assets? Well, you're not allowed to do what you want to do. In fact, how you want to spend your money is now up to me. I'll say it again. I've been saying it on the show. I'll say it again. The United States of America looks a lot more like China than we would like to admit. Trump has just taken equity stakes in businesses without paying for them. Remember when he bragged, he's like, haha, I got 10% of Intel. I'm the best president ever. I didn't even have to pay him for it. Well, okay. What rights to property do Americans have anymore? That's not a brag. That's not the flex you think it is, bro. You're just taking people's shit, and they're not giving it to you because they think you're a good guy. They're giving it to you because you have the U.S. military. So here we go again. You know, in my opinion, and this isn't a Republican or Democrat thing, the Democrats had no notion of free speech. Biden's administration was going into social media accounts and determining what public opinion was. That was fucking insane. That was insane. And into the health detriment of the American people, because it turns out they were wrong about everything. It's one thing to censor speech, but you're doing it because you have the best interest of the people. I mean, this was to the detriment. Many people harmed their bodies, arguably forever, because they censored speech. You're like, well, we're the United States of America. We're nothing like China. That sounds like a very CCP thing to do. Go into the accounts of the public conversation and determine public opinion. Okay? Now you go to the Republicans. We're nothing like China, but if we don't like the way you're running your business, it's ours. That sounds a lot like the CCP. Okay? The rest of the post goes on, and he explains that, oh, by the way, if you're an executive at any of these companies, I get to cap how much money you make. The notion that we're living in a free market is, I mean, you'd have to be an idiot to believe that at this point. This is the furthest thing from a free market. You are not compensated by in which the value you create for others. Property rights in this country have been seriously threatened. Freedom of speech in this country has been seriously threatened. The only things that can defend your native rights as a human are technology, distributed technology that uses mathematics and cryptography. Bitcoin is the only last standing sense of property rights we have in the world. The West will no longer afford you that. Okay? Oh, froze again. Rebooting. Honestly insane, guys. I mean, it really, this is the most insane timeline to ever live through, period. It's unbelievable, honestly. Just oh, nice business you have there, but I don't like it, so it's now mine. What? If I'm an executive at one of these companies, why don't I just start a new company? Why? The president's not going to allow me to get paid? That's insanity. Anyways, let me make sure it's working. Okay, so we go on. Luke tweets, a good first step. A good next step equals engineers go to college for free, welders go to trade school for free, and both make 1/10 the amount of defense company CEOs subsidized by the U.S. government. Now, this tweet is half serious and a little bit of satire, but it's mostly serious because the point is, as we've talked about on this show, the U.S. has to make a choice. Trump's talked often about we're going to reindustrialize. We're going to bring back the middle of America, right? That's the red party, the flyover states. The Rust Belt, all of those jobs are in China, and they're in China as a result of globalism, as a result of being the world reserve currency, as a result of divorcing from any hard money and being governed by the laws of Mother Nature, right? That is, we print money, we export money, we import real stuff, so therefore the real stuff doesn't get made by us anymore. And Trump's like, fuck that, we're going to reindustrialize. And what we've said on the show time and time again is that's fine. The U.S. can do whatever it wants. But someone has to lose. There's a $38 trillion hole. Someone has to realize that loss. Who is losing? In the game of musical chairs, someone loses. There's not a seat for everybody. Okay? And so if what Trump is saying is these people are losers, We're going to take over their businesses. We're going to print money and subsidize. Because the question is, how are we going to start making stuff again? Nobody in this country knows how to make stuff. Who's going to refine rare earths in this country? When you guys go on your commute to work tomorrow and you're on the train, why don't you say, hey, everybody, before we get to the next stop on the train, does anyone here know how to refine a rare earth? I would bet my life that the answer would be zero. Nobody on your commute to work knows how to refine a rare earth. We don't know these things. So how are we going to get human beings that are capable of making stuff again? We have to train them. We have to teach them. We have to pay them. The really, really smart Google engineer is going to need to be compensated to quit Google and go make rare earths. And so this is a fine, if this is what Trump wants, this is going to be highly inflationary. It's going to send Bitcoin to the moon. And there has to be a lot more follow through. Oh boy, this thing is really crashing out. I'm going to start removing the tabs as I go by them. Sorry, I just have so much to say in this episode. Frustrating. I got to find software that helps me scale this show. Hey, not a professional podcaster. This isn't my day job. Shit. Can you imagine if it was? Pour one out for all the podcasters out there, man. This shit's hard. All sorts of. Hey, not easy. Okay, here we go. Just going to delete tabs as I go through them. And so another Trump tweet. After long and difficult negotiations with senators, congressmen, secretaries, and other political representatives, I have determined that for the good of the country, especially in these very troubled and dangerous times, fear-mongering motherfucker, our military budget for the year 2027 should not just be $1 trillion, but rather $1.5 trillion. So another result of the fourth turning of what we're living through is increased military spending. They have to print more money. How about this from the Associated Press? Japan's cabinet okays record defense budget that aims to deter China. More spending. Okay, so you're getting increased industrial policy, increased money printing. If they want to reshore, we want to end globalism. We want to deter ourselves from the pain that is being the world reserve currency, which are these massive deficits, an erosion of the middle class, real wage growth declining, an inability to manufacture our own shit, a heavy reliance on China. All of that is going to cost someone losing in an infinite amount of money printing, which is fine. So let's take a look at the side effects. Okay, first, Luke makes an incredibly important point here. He says, in the last several months, many have said to reshore, so again, bring all the jobs back from overseas, specifically China, okay? If we want to reshore, build an industrial base again, a manufacturing base again, we just need to go to wartime footing like we did in 1940. But what these few voices note is that in 1940, wartime footing meant top marginal U.S. tax rate of over 80%, capital controls, and significant rationing of consumer goods. So again, the United States, here's the thing, and people will say, well, why is Bitcoin not at 1 million? I thought you said if they print money, it's because the United States and the Trump administration wants their cake. What is it? Has their cake and eat it too? Wants their cake and something, whatever. You can't get the best of both worlds. They have to choose. It's like saying we're going to reshore, but Elon Musk is going to run the United States like a startup. You're like, no, you don't get it. You either need to print the money and a lot of people lose and some people win, or we enter austerity and a lot of people lose and some people win. But you can't have both. So, okay, you want to run a $1.5 trillion defense budget? You want to start controlling property in the United States of America and running you're basically taking companies' capital and allocating it to the best interest of the United States against their will? Okay, are we also going to have 80% plus taxes, or are we going to have 0% interest rates, or are we going to have yield curve control? Because you can't not print the money and reshore. Which one is it? So here's another side effect. If you check the U.S. trade deficit right now, this is the most narrow it's been in over 10 years. So Feiju writes, tariffs do seem to be doing what they were intended to do, which is narrow the trade deficit. But as the trade deficit narrows, the other side of that ledger means there are less dollars being supplied to the rest of the world. So you guys want to know why Bitcoin is teetering on a bear market? I think that we are, in gold terms, we haven't had a bull market yet. Well, because some of these actions mean less dollar liquidity, guys. This administration has to pick a side. Not even this administration, the fiat world. Are we going to collapse, or are we going to print the money? Either way, Bitcoin wins, but it's just, you can't have your cake and eat it too. This headline reads, that was it. Oh, it just came out naturally. Have your cake and eat it too. U.S. trade deficit shrinks to smallest since 2020 as gold exports jump. Okay. And then if you see this screenshot, export of goods increased by $7.1 billion to $195.9 billion in October. Exports of goods on a census basic increased $7.2 billion. And Luke writes, U.S. September trade deficit shrinks to the smallest in 2020 as gold exports jump. And on the last screenshot, year-over-year growth in U.S. October exports appears to be significantly driven by U.S. exports of gold and other precious metals. So is the U.S. balancing its trade deficits with gold? The dollar has to get significantly debased for this to work. It is being debased currently by gold. And then other side effects. We're living in a bipolar too, but multipolar world. We talked last episode about Venezuela and how I thought this had a lot more to do with China, Russia, and Iran, critical minerals. This was not it. People are calling it an oil grab. We don't need the oil necessarily. Now, it doesn't mean we won't use the oil. It will take many, many years for us to use the oil. But this was about a multipolar world. This was about the notion that the U.S. is the de facto empire. Those days are over. Those days are over. Let's actually listen to what Marco Rubio had to say. He effectively verified our entire last episode in this CNBC interview. Let's listen.
Let me ask you about oil. The president says the U.S. is taking over the oil. The question is, I guess, if the purpose of the operation was to capture Maduro and bring him to justice, why does the United States need to take over the Venezuelan oil industry?
Well, we don't need to. First of all, let me go back up. We don't need Venezuela's oil. We have plenty of oil in the United States. What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
Have specific oil companies?
We also want to see that oil and the proceeds from it. Hold on. We want to see the oil proceeds of that country benefit the people of Venezuela. Why have 8 million people left Venezuela? 8 million, the single largest mass migration probably in modern history, left Venezuela in 2014 because all the wealth of that country was stolen to the benefit of Maduro and his cronies in the regime, but not to the benefit of people of Venezuela. You know how destabilizing 8 million migrants is? The number one fear that Brazil has, that Colombia has, that all these countries in the region have about what's happening in Venezuela and our involvement is they're afraid of another mass migration event. That's what they fear. This is deeply destabilizing stuff. It's not going to continue to happen. They are not going to come from outside of our hemisphere, destabilize our region in our own backyard, and us have to pay the price for it.
They're not going to come in our hemisphere, destabilize our region, and have us pay the price for it. Okay, so this is about a multipolar world. This is our side. These are our critical resources. These are our natural resources. Get out. This isn't about, the U.S. didn't need their oil. Now, are we going to use their oil? Yeah, it sounds like it. I don't know. Sounds like it. But this wasn't, U.S., I have to be deleting tabs. The U.S. doesn't need their oil. Okay. And then I found this from the New York Times to be decently concerning. Trump says what China does in Taiwan is up to China. Again, another self-admission that the times are changing. The title of this episode is Bitcoin at the Turning Point. We went into Venezuela not for oil, yes, there's a regime and the Venezuelan people. I mean, I'm so happy for them that the regime is now changing. But that clearly was not the utmost priority for the United States. This was not about oil. This was not about drugs. This was about a multipolar world. It's about, those are our, and I don't fundamentally believe this as a person, but I'm paraphrasing on behalf of Washington. Those are our resources because this is our hemisphere. It's the same thing as Greenland. We are going to secure our hemisphere. We are going to secure our natural resources. We are going to reshore. We are going to weaken the dollar. That's what they're saying. These are natural consequences of what's happening. And if the Federal Reserve does not support me, I will throw him in jail. Your liberties, your rights, your property aren't yours. The notion of the West is changing. You cannot do nothing, just print money and get away with it. I'm sorry. It doesn't take a Harvard economist to realize that. And so this next chapter is financial repression begins. So here comes some of the money printing. Donald Trump posted, Biden ignored the housing market and instead was immersed with high crime, open borders, runaway inflation, the Afghanistan disaster, and a military that he left in chaos and confusion. Everything was broken, but I, as the president of the United States, this guy, have already fixed it. Now I am giving special attention to the housing market because I choose not to sell Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in my first term, a truly great decision, and against the advice of the experts, it is now worth many times that amount, an absolute fortune, and has $200 billion in cash. Because of this, I am instructing my representatives to buy $200 billion in mortgage bonds. This will drive mortgage rates down, monthly payments down, and make the cost of owning a home more affordable. It is one of my many steps in restoring affordability, something that the Biden administration absolutely destroyed. We are bringing back the American dream that was destroyed by the last administration. Make America great again. I mean, this is the most insane timeline to be living through. Fuck quantitative easing. This is presidential easing. This is Trump easing. Instead of QE, we should now call it TE. Trump easing. Tight end. Colston Loveland, Trump easing. Okay? This guy, I mean, this is insane. Trump's saying, hey, Powell, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it. This is highly, 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 highly liquidity positive. Send it to the moon. Another one from Trump. Please be informed that we will no longer let the American public be ripped off by credit card companies that are charging interest rates of 20 to 30% and even more, which festered unimpeded during the sleepy Joe Biden administration. Again, guys, these are not free markets. These are not serious people. They're saying you and your business are not allowed to operate how you want. Do you want to know how interest rates come down? Someone builds a better product and charges cheaper. This is Free Markets 101. If there's a barber in Chicago that's charging 10 grand for a haircut, if you want to disrupt them, spin up a barber shop and charge $10 for a haircut. The market will find a natural equilibrium where supply and demand both flourish. We must be governed by the free market. This is literally more like China than anyone wants to admit. But, like, America as we know it is not sustainable. You cannot just print $2 trillion a year of deficits and think I'm sorry. Okay, so Trump is taking over industrial industry, taking over the credit card industry now. And the last section I have is, who pays the price? Who loses here? Because I still, Bitcoin, the markets are very confused. Bloomberg, I should have put it in here. Bloomberg, here, actually, let me find it really quick. I said I should have put it in here, but this is my show, so I could do what I want. I will put it in here. Here we go. Let's bring this up here. There we go. Bloomberg, I saw this hit the timeline today. Here we go again. The Sell America trade is revived by Trump's latest Fed attack. And so Bloomberg was under the impression that this Sell America trade, where there's fear and everyone's dumping U.S. equities. Guys, by the way, so on the Jerome Powell headline, or not even headline, hostage video, excuse me, that was belch. On the Jerome Powell hostage video, Bitcoin pumped to like 92 something. But then this morning it dumped. And it dumped because the equities market dumped. Everything sold off. And so markets are deeply confused. Are we supposed to sell America right now? Are we supposed to buy America right now? Obviously, everyone that's de-risking in size is aping into gold. But the point is, this administration hasn't printed the money. They want the best of both worlds. They're not going to get it. But let's look at who's paying the price currently. So this is a tweet from Luke, and I just couldn't agree more with this. What do you want? You see in the first line, the what do you want choice facing the U.S. It's what do you want? Do you want to weaken the dollar, devalue debt to GDP? It's going to be highly inflationary. The Fed's balance sheet is going to 10x in size. And gold and Bitcoin are going to go to the absolute moon, and we will try and reshore and win the AI race. Is that what you want? Or is that not what you want? You don't want to weaken the dollar. You want to run a more, a much smaller deficit. You want Elon to run this thing like what do you want? Pick one. He writes, the way we devalue U.S. debt to GDP is by running gold up to a big number, having Secretary Bessent revalue U.S. official gold to that big of a number, and then use the results to build a big TGA, Treasury General account, deposit to buy debt to GDP down to a sustainable number. And what he's quote tweeting here is an image that shows U.S. workers get smallest slice of economic pie on record. In the third quarter of 2025, the so-called labor share fell to its lowest since data began in the 1940s. And he's got annotations on this image here. When China entered the WTO, this thing fell off a cliff. He wrote, this chart shows that for the past 30 years, U.S. economic policy has been subjugate the U.S. middle and working class to support the U.S. Treasury market, Washington, D.C. deficits, and China. Everyone says they want to compete with China, but unless this percentage rises a lot, that will not happen. China will make all of our military for us instead of just some of it. But if this rises a lot, wage inflation in the U.S. will soar, which will send rates soaring, which at 120% debt to GDP and a financialized economy will send U.S. into a debt spiral. So the United States must devalue debt to GDP first, or it will likely lose the great power competition to China. What do you want? We are coming to the end of the road, the dead end. I fundamentally believe that. Here is another way of looking at it. This from Feiju. No sign of a reshoring of manufacturing jobs from tariffs. The complete opposite, actually. Look at manufacturing payroll in 2025. So you guys, again, why is Bitcoin down? Why is Bitcoin down? Well, they haven't printed the money. Manufacturing payroll is down. The economy is not booming. Growth is not booming. Half the market thinks we're in a sell the U.S. trade. Half the market thinks we're in a buy the U.S. trade. We have to get clarity here. And that is why the stall, that is why the bear market. I mean, Bitcoin tells no lies. It is the free market. So That's all right. That one was about an hour. For my strike section, I wanted to give myself a little bit of time here because I wanted to talk about our lending product, because this tweet, I engaged with it a little bit and it was decently popular, but I do want to just spend a second and be able to talk, and you guys can clip this or link it. And so it's more of like an official reaction. So the tweet from Wicked, which by the way, I love this account. I love this guy. He tweeted 10% unsecured credit card, 12% Bitcoin collateralized loan plus liquidation risk. Your move, Jack. And it's like, bro, I mean, first of all, he's tweeting Trump going all CCP and fixing the price of your credit card rates. Okay. There's so much I disagree with here. Let me first start by saying that if you think Bitcoin-backed loans are competing with credit cards, you don't understand the product. At least in my opinion. I mean, who am I to tell you how to use tools? But in my opinion, if you think these things are competitive, you just don't get it. Bitcoin-backed loans are not about finding the cheapest credit. There will likely be cheaper credit because, like, us in Bitcoin, I don't have a money printer. Like, I'm not the president of the United States. If I could tweet out and say Bitcoin-backed loans are 1% because I have the U.S. military, thank you for your attention to this matter, I would. But, like, I don't have the U.S. military and a money printer. So they're not about finding the cheapest credit. They're about maximizing long-term Bitcoin ownership. They're about not selling your Bitcoin. You can borrow instead of sell, okay? Put more simply, credit cards help you spend dollars that you don't have. Bitcoin-backed loans help you spend wealth that you've already saved. They're fundamentally different things. A credit card is giving you an advance on money you don't have. When we give you a Bitcoin-backed loan, I'm not giving you money that you don't have. I'm giving you dollars against Bitcoin you've already saved. The point is, how do you monetize and spend your Bitcoin wealth without selling your Bitcoin? If what you're looking for is the cheapest form of credit, that's fine. But if I have amassed wealth in Bitcoin, I can't use it via a credit card. That's not what my Chase Sapphire card or whatever the fuck you guys use. That's not what it's for. They're fundamentally different products. Like, my customers have an opportunity to own more Bitcoin and save more Bitcoin because we have built what we've built. Without it, they would be forced with two options. You can either sell your Bitcoin and part with your Bitcoin, pay capital gains tax, and have less sats, or you could not improve your life with the wealth you've saved in Bitcoin. Those were the two options before we built this product. Now there's a third option. You can borrow against your stack, have the wealth actually impact your life, buy a house, start a business, put your kid through school, retire all of your debt, pay your taxes, finance a medical emergency, whatever. And you get to keep the Bitcoin. You also get to avoid the capital gains tax. That is very different than a credit card. Very different than a credit card. In fact, I use both products. This is how I know they're not competitors. The way I live my life, I get my paychecks to Strike. So you guys should listen to this because I get asked all the time how I stack and use Bitcoin. I have two paychecks. I get paid for founding and running Strike. I get paid for founding and running 21. Okay. They both come into Strike. Strike has an account and routing number. We have a direct deposit feature, and I get paid in Bitcoin. So as my paychecks come in, Strike converts them and Smash buys Bitcoin. No fee, no spread, by the way, on that product. So I'm getting full on sats every paycheck. So I'm DCAing through my effort, my work, my time, my energy, my labor. So I'm just growing my Bitcoin stack, every paycheck that comes in. Okay. I spend on a monthly basis on my credit card. Okay. So I went to the Bears game with Dylan on Saturday. We're at the tailgate. We're getting hot dogs or whatever. I'm on my credit card. Okay. I called an Uber there. I'm on my credit card. Okay. Strike also has a bill pay feature. So this account and routing number can pay bills. Okay? So I spend on credit. So I use both products. Now, when it's time to pay off the credit card, and I also have an HOA for this empty closet, I have an electricity and ComEd bill that I have to take care of. So I have bills, right? They're all hooked up to my Strike account. Now, something like the Strike line of credit is that when a bill comes in, Strike dynamically extends a line of credit. Let's say I have a $10,000 credit card bill. As the bill comes in, Strike creates $10,000 worth of credit against the Bitcoin I have on the platform that I've been stacking on my paychecks and pays the bill for me. So I'm using the credit cards, which are allowing me to spend dollars I don't have. And I'm using Bitcoin-backed lending, which is allowing me to use the wealth I'm saving. Do you understand how those are fundamentally different products? That way, I'm able to live my life owning as much Bitcoin as I possibly can. And the wealth that I'm saving can actually make a difference in my life. Dylan and I had awesome seats because I've saved a lot of Bitcoin. But I was able to experience the Chicago Bears in awesome seats because of my Bitcoin without selling my Bitcoin. I don't know how else to phrase like how powerful of a product that is. That's an immensely powerful product, especially when you consider that the thing that I'm saving is 50% CAGR asset, is doubling every 18 months. So the other thing when people say like, dude, 12% is way too high. I get it. I do. Here, let me delete these. I get it. I do get it. But you have to understand, this is 12% loan against a 50% CAGR asset. Okay? So what I have on the screen here is a 12% loan against a 50% CAGR asset is cheap. An 8% loan against a 3% CAGR asset is insane. Real estate is a 2 to 4% CAGR asset. A HELOC right now is 8%. HELOC is home equity line of credit. So people are saying, how come like your 12% is more expensive than the 8% that I could get on a HELOC? I'm just going to do that. Hey, idiot. The point is you have money to save. You should save it in the 50% CAGR asset, not the 3% CAGR asset. 12% is dirt cheap because your wealth is compounding far faster than that. And by the way, capital gains in the United States is at cheapest 20%. So as long as the number you're paying is less than 20 and less than Bitcoin's CAGR, it's extremely cheap. You're paying 8% on an asset that is compounding at 3%. Here's my opinion. You should only own one home, and it should be the one you sleep in, and you live in, and you provide for your family in. Everything else you need to save, you should put in Bitcoin, and as long as you have enough wealth and you can responsibly do so, you should never sell that Bitcoin. You should borrow against that Bitcoin. And the line of credit we're building that, by the way, is coming out in less than a month is so important because instead of these 12-month duration products, which kind of force you to borrow a potentially uncomfortable number and then people lose sleep about margin calls and they feel like they're taking on more risk than they can handle, you are able to take out these bite-sized bill pay amounts at a time. Like it's just extending lines of credit against the bills that you're paying, so you're never taking out a massive lump sum at once that's due in a year. You're just, as you live your life saving in Bitcoin, you're able to allow that Bitcoin stack to benefit you. And the other thing you guys have to understand is that dollars lent against Bitcoin are inherently expensive because who the fuck would want to lend against a 50 CAGR asset instead of buy the 50 CAGR asset? You have to find someone that's willing to take dollars they have and instead of buy Bitcoin, give you a loan for 12%. So you're making 50% a year on average, compounded annually, and they're only making 12. So when you're lending against such a volatile, high-performing asset, it's going to be more expensive to borrow against it because the cost of capital is so immense. Do you guys understand that? It's like people are like, oh, the Bitcoin market should, I get what you guys are saying. I'm not trying to make fun of you. I get it. An over-collateralized loan, such as the loans we offer, should be cheaper. The world has not appreciated all that's happening right now. I'm working on it. We've made a lot of progress. Strike's Bitcoin-backed lending product has not even been live for a full year yet. We're already one of the biggest lenders in the world, and the sophistication of our product, I mean, by this line of credit we're about to roll out, I mean, there will not be, pound for pound, there will not be a better way to borrow against your Bitcoin if you're just a Bitcoiner, period. Like flat out, period. Pricing, liquidations, LTVs, combining all of your loans, early repayment, like everything. So we're working on it. But you have to appreciate the fact that you're asking someone to take fiat and instead of buy Bitcoin, lend it to you. That's extremely expensive proposition. And again, to me, like when I've realized that we could lend at as cheap as 9%, we're like between 9 and 13%, I think at Strike. It depends on how much you're borrowing. I was like ecstatic. I couldn't believe it. I mean, for myself, I was so excited to use the product. I'm like, oh my God, like we've cracked the code. I can fully live on a Bitcoin standard just with my Strike account. I can get paid, I could pay bills, I could stack sats, and I could borrow against it in a way that's seamless. Like I've done it. I have a savings account that doubles every 18 months. Like we did it. And like for people to be like, fuck you, I just don't understand what you're talking about. It's a 50 CAGR asset. 12% is dirt cheap. So anyways, if you guys disagree with that or that's confusing or you have more feedback, please leave it in the comments. Our line of credit product should start to roll out in less than a month. I cannot wait. I mean, Strike is the bank account of the future. You can get paid and convert any amount of that into Bitcoin, no fees, no spread. DCA, no fees, no spread. And then you can either borrow large chunks. So if you do want to buy a house, you want to start a business, you have a big tax bill, you can borrow large chunks very cheaply, securely, no origination fee, no early repayment fee, none of that bullshit, refinance it at any time. Or this line of credit is for people that are actively living on these. So you don't have to borrow a giant lump sum. Just hook up your bill pay to Strike and we'll extend a line of credit against it in real time. So it's these manageable bite size and you can maybe configure your direct deposit. You're say, hey, half my paycheck will buy Bitcoin. The other half will go towards paying off the interest and paying down some of the line of credit I've been accumulating. It's amazing. And then you're so severely over collateralized that there is no such thing as like Bitcoin wicks down and you get margin called. It's the way to live. It's the way to go. And then on the 21 stuff, when I was at the Bears game, there was like all sorts of FUD that, we sold a bunch of Bitcoin, everyone tweeting at me and all this shit. And so just to show you guys, like our proof of reserves still shows the 43,513 Bitcoin that we had. We did send one Bitcoin. So we purchased one Bitcoin and we sent said Bitcoin. That was an expense. So we paid a contractor that billed us for a Bitcoin for something they did for us. So, but we don't have any less or any more Bitcoin. We bought the Bitcoin and sent the Bitcoin. The way Bitcoin works is there's a new change address. Our proof of reserves is updated. All the FUD could be put to rest. Or like, bro, are you going to address this on Monday? Like, yeah, yes, here, this is me addressing it. Nothing happened, okay? Listen, I get it. We have a lot of big plans. I've alluded to them into the capacity in which I'm allowed to. We have started working on business lines that we believe will be immensely profitable with lots of growth prospects. And we think that that's going to be interesting in a backdrop of other companies accumulating Bitcoin with, a lack of an operating business or a lack of a very profitable Bitcoin related one. We're very excited about that. I've talked before, our emphasis and focus on the lending space. I think borrowing against Bitcoin is a severely misunderstood space. It's a severely underinvested space. People keep saying, oh, JP Morgan Chase, they're going to be the biggest lenders against Bitcoin. No, they're not. Like, because of banking regulations, it would be immensely expensive for them. If you actually click into these articles and you read them and you don't just go for clickbait on Twitter, you'll realize that JP Morgan has not committed anytime soon to lending against physical Bitcoins or just against iBit. And I can explain why that is. So, I do think that industry is very interesting. Given Tether and I's background, we are very well positioned to do very well there. And, we hope to be able to talk more about what we've been working on soon. But all the FUD about our stack and our this and our that, I love who we are. We're transparent. We're accessible. We're for the people. You can go on and you can view, so you can ask me questions. You're literally going to get a live stream from a public company CEO that has 43,500 Bitcoin and get the answer. Straight, I'm not a robot. I'm a human. I think that's cool. And that's all I had. So let me blow my face up here. You guys like my hat? It's so old. I've had this since I was a kid. But because it's a little sagging down, but you can see my little fluffy thing at the top. There we go. Look at my... Good, better, best. Let's do some Q&A, shall we? That wasn't too long. We're getting good at this. We're almost at 45,000 YouTube subscribers. Guys, if you're listening and you wouldn't mind, give me a subscription. Hit subscribe. There it is. Hit subscribe. Hit subscribe. All right, Dill. Where you at? Let's do some Q&A. Let me pull up your document. Let's see what questions you guys got for me. 21, can you do something for me? Oop, don't want that there. I want it down here. Okay. Oh, and let me pull up the chat too. Some of you guys are mean to me, man. What did I do to you? That's okay though. I ain't no bitch. You can't hurt my feelings. All right, first question. Question for Jack. Can you give perspective on Luke Roman's comments on that Bitcoin is only acting as a beta tech stock and that deflation before the big print could be a disaster for Bitcoin? Sure. I mean, Bitcoin does trade with tech. It doesn't mean it should, and it doesn't mean it will forever. The reality is right now it does. Luke's not wrong about that. And yes, if there's deflation before fiat liquidity, not only will it be bad for Bitcoin, it'll be bad for everything. That's another way of saying if everything collapses before they print the money, then could be bad. Now, listen, I've explained this before, and I just want to reiterate. Luke is a financial analyst. Like, he has clients. He manages money, at least his own money, I know. Like, I'm a dude. I'm just a dude that works and saves. So, like, the notion of, like, I'm lessening my allocation to Bitcoin and adding these indexes, they're like, Luke and I are very different in that respect. We have similar worldviews. I like his analysis. I know, Luke has said that, he likes some of my work, which I found very cool. I was very appreciative of that from him. I think Luke's awesome. But I'm not a trader. I'm a saver. I'm a builder, Very different things. So Luke is like talking about short-term trades. Like Bitcoin's going to fall if deflation hits before the big print, and then he's going to buy a bunch and add back in. Like, I don't do that. Either way, they're going to print a fuck ton of money. Could Bitcoin go down before it goes to astronomical new highs? Absolutely. Could it not? Absolutely. I don't like living with that risk. I don't like being short Bitcoin, even a penny's worth of it. If I have money to save, it goes into Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up with time, and I have nothing but time. I don't sit all day and look at charts. I don't sit all day and try and manage people's portfolios. I build businesses. I try and create valuable tools for people, and I save the excess wealth after I take care of the people I love. So Luke and I are very different in that respect. So yes, what he's saying is that's not debatable. That is an unequivocal fact. Bitcoin has been trading like a high beta tech stock. Unfortunately, the world just doesn't understand it yet. That's fine. That's why all of us everyday folks have had the opportunities we've had. If Bitcoin was well understood, it'd be $5 million a coin, and you and I would have to stack far less every paycheck than we do today. So I'm thankful in that respect, but it's true. It's true. And yes, if we go into some form of austerity before they print enough dollars, like I've been talking about, they want the best of both worlds and they're not going to get it, then yeah, there will likely be a financial crisis and Bitcoin will be severely harmed in that. And that, again, it's the best expression. It's the only free market. It's the only truth-telling asset that we have left, both good and bad. You can't take the good without the bad. But it also will rip your face off. Like, we can wake up and Bitcoin's at 130,000. You're like, oh man, I was waiting for it to go down. No, I don't play those games. Next question. What do you think of Elon Musk saying saving is pointless because money won't matter in 20 years? He thinks everyone will have high income for free. No, I think that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. What? That's so stupid. Okay. Here's the thing, man. Like, okay, fine. Then Elon Musk, why doesn't he liquidate all the equity he has in these companies and donate it? Why doesn't Elon Musk subsidize America reshoring? No one needs savings, right? I mean, these are not serious people. These are not serious people. I guess if I were to argue on behalf of Elon, he's saying that the level of human productivity and the level of just productivity broadly with AI is going to be so immense that we'll live in like a perpetual abundance, and so that you won't need like capital to get stuff. Sure. But like the way that you combat, and Elon said things like energy is the real currency. That's what you'll need. You'll need energy. I agree with that, but Bitcoin is energy money. The way that you save in a world of like this AI plus fiat is finding something that they can't print more of. If you think that it's pointless to be saving Bitcoin right now, you're either malicious or a moron, but neither are okay. I hate the excuse people give when they're like, well, he just doesn't know any better. Well, then shut the fuck up. Stop pretending like you're an expert. If you don't, like, I got in heated debates, I was going to say with Elon, but not as if he responded to me, but I would tweet at him and respond to some of his shit when he was pumping Dogecoin. He was just wrecking people. And he was talking like he knew what he was talking, like he didn't, at the time, I don't know if he does now, he didn't understand Bitcoin at all. And it's like, dude, humble yourself, man. You don't have to be the expert in everything. You're smart, you're the richest guy, and we all love you and we're all very thankful for you. But like, you don't have to be the expert and the main character in everything. You don't. So incompetence is not an excuse for being highly irresponsible. Like, you're either being malicious or you're incompetent, but either way, then shut the fuck up. I don't parade around pretending to be an expert in things I don't know anything about. I'm okay with that. So I've had this problem with Elon in the past. He like showed up in 2021 during the bull run and was like, I need to be the main character of crypto. Dogecoin is better than Bitcoin. And it's like, how insecure are you? I don't know. Maybe he's gotten better, and I don't know. But to tell people like, don't save money, maybe he's misquoted here in your question. Don't save money in fiat, but like saving energy-based money right now is a bad idea. Yet gold is at all-time highs, and he has almost $1 trillion of equity capital. Are you being malicious? Or are you being incompetent? What a stupid fucking thing to say. Also, don't believe anyone that thinks they're an expert in anything. because it's physically impossible. Like, division of labor is one of the best things that has, the outcome of inventing money for humans is that there's this idea of division of labor. Someone could be a windshield wiper fixer and contribute an immense amount of value to the world just by focusing on that thing. And we don't need to go through barter. Like, you can hyper specialize on things and become an extreme expert in very niche things and still trade with others because you don't have to rely on barter anymore. Like, if a windshield wiper fixer-upper needed to rely on barter, they wouldn't be able to walk into the grocery store and exchange that level of labor for food. Because what if the person selling the food didn't need their windshield wiper fixed? But the fact that they can hyper specialize and save in money and then later use the money for the things they need, the division of labor is an immense superpower to society this big. So the notion that someone is more of an expert than anyone else at everything is physically impossible. These are not serious people. Question for Jack. If you believe Bitcoin is never meant to be spent, do you not believe in Austrian economics and sound money principles? Thanks. That's not what I said. Here's the thing about you guys. Don't do that. I didn't say that. I never said Bitcoin's never meant to be spent. On this show, I have a painting in the other room that I bought for 6 Bitcoin, and it was like $400, okay? Because I bought it like over a decade ago. I've spent Bitcoin. I've probably spent a lot more Bitcoin than the people listening, okay? And I'm not proud of that. I'm not bragging about that. I never said that. I hope to live in a world where borrowing against your Bitcoin doesn't matter because the world isn't using fiat. And we all earn Bitcoin. We all spend Bitcoin. Bitcoin is money. Everything else doesn't matter. I would love that. That'd be awesome. That's just not the world we're in. So in today's world, if you have an opportunity to borrow against your Bitcoin as opposed to spending it, that's what we call Gresham's Law. Are you familiar with that concept? That is, you spend the weak money and you save the hard money. So also, people should do what they want. Some people will get really emotional and be like, well, I believe in the circular economy. I'm like, all right, bro. I've never once put a gun to anyone's head. I'm expressing my opinion. Fuck off, sue me. You want to spend your Bitcoin? Spend your Bitcoin. I wouldn't advise it. If you look at the data, it's not a very sound decision, given that you don't have to spend the Bitcoin. Let me put it to you guys this way. Would I rather have the painting in the other room or 6 Bitcoin? Guess what? I'd rather have the 6 fucking Bitcoin. But do what you want. I never said that. I believe in Austrian economics and free markets. We're just living through this dual currency time where you have savings and spending. Savings is increasingly becoming Bitcoin for many people. And then spending is dollars. People have to spend dollars. That's what I'm saying. Hey, Jack, I love these videos. Excuse me. What's this say, Dylan? Excuse me in new? Oh, excuse me, I'm new. Typo. Hey, Jack, love the videos. Excuse me, I'm new. When you say Bitcoin is the last property rights, I understand that much. If you had one sentence to describe how is this actually property? Well, I just mean property rights in the fact that, I don't mean property in land. I mean property in something of mine that I own. So I have the right to own property, meaning I have the right to own things. This is my hoodie. This is my house. These are my Bitcoins. Meaning nobody can come and against my will take them from me. This is the idea of property rights, right to property. And to me, Bitcoin is the only network and only asset that gives you real property rights. Because as we've seen in the United States of America, what yours isn't actually yours if the president doesn't want it to be yours. Which begs the question, well, then, is anything actually yours? What you have, I'm putting in quotes, in air quotes, what you have is being rented effectively from Washington. And the day Washington says rent is due, then it's due. It's not yours anymore. Now, I don't want to be super dramatic, and I'm not saying that Washington's going to come confiscate all of our property, but the level of property right violation we're seeing is not good, in my opinion. Telling of the times. We're living through the death of fiat, for sure. And so Bitcoin is a level of property rights so ingrained. Bitcoin is merely information. I can store billions of dollars by memorizing 12 words. How are you going to confiscate that from me? Because what people don't necessarily appreciate, if my property is a house or if my property is gold, these are physical things someone can take from me. So if you want to confiscate my land, if you want to confiscate my gold, you put a gun to my head and you say, give me your stuff or you die. And if I say no, you put the bullet in my brain, I die, and then you take the gold and the land. Now, if you put a gun to my head and you say, give me the 12 words or you die, and I say no, the only way to guarantee that you won't get to the 12 words is to kill me. You can't pick up the 12 words and take it with them. You don't know the 12 words. Only I know the 12 words. That is a level of property rights so severe that value is information. It's just text. And so I think Bitcoin's property rights are so ingrained, it's the only asset that disincentivizes violence. The only way to get my Bitcoins is to keep me alive. How cool is that? And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't fly drones over my Bitcoins. You can't put a gun to my Bitcoins. There's nothing you can do. My Bitcoins aren't registered with the state of Delaware. They don't have a bunch of employees with trade secrets. There's nothing you can do. They're mine. It's my information. And the only way to guarantee you don't get it is by killing me and harming me. That's property rights. In a world of escaping property rights, that's property rights. You want to really own something? Own Bitcoin in self-custody. Yo, Jack, weigh in on Saylor and Danny's interview released today in regards to Bitcoin operating companies. Figure slim chance you missed it. I did not miss it. I also, though, don't know how much I want to comment. I mean, here's what I'll say. Oh, boy. Fuck it. Why not? Listen, man of the people, gun to my head, no matter what path my life ends up taking me down, I only know how to just be honest and be myself. So my opinion, take it for what it is. I genuinely don't know what Danny said that really upset Michael. I watched it back a few times today. I don't know what was offensive. And it was weird because Danny kept trying to assure Michael that what Michael was claiming he was stating, he wasn't. Like, Michael was like, you're being offensive. You're claiming X, Y, and Z. And Danny was like, no, to be clear, I'm not. That's not my position. So I don't know what it was that was offensive. Michael's point that, why don't you make fun of all the companies that aren't buying Bitcoin instead of giving companies that are buying Bitcoin a hard time? And to be clear, Danny he said it at least a dozen times. Like, I'm not making fun of these companies. He was merely asking if all of them can coexist, if there is a market big enough that allows them to be successful without having to have a real business that is net productive, meaning profitable. I think that was the question. Although, I mean, it was so dysfunctional, I have no idea. I watched it 5 times. I have no idea. But that was my interpretation. But anyways, Michael seemed to take offense with the notion that the companies buying Bitcoin could be criticized because there are companies out there that aren't buying Bitcoin. What I will say is, Bitcoin is the most free and open market that there is in the world. There is no central authority. There are no central planners. And so ideas and discourse is abundant and forever. And I disagree that anyone should be excused of criticism or questioning or thoughtful conversation for any reason. Bitcoiners keep Bitcoin honest. It is our job collectively as a network. Bitcoin without Bitcoiners is simply unused software sitting idly on a computer, on Satoshi's laptop. We collectively are Bitcoin. And we have to allow and encourage everyone to express every level of questioning, criticism, skepticism. So I don't find it helpful to be extremely defensive and hostile towards what I thought was a decently reasonable question. The question, as far as I could tell, and again, let it be known, I have no issues with Michael. Michael's reached out to me a few times. I pick up the phone every time. I've reached out to Michael. He picks up the phone. There's no beef. There's no bad blood. Seriously. Sometimes I'll say something and people take it as offensive towards strategy and everyone comes for my head. But guys, I've been in this Bitcoin thing for a long time. It's never personal. It's always for the mission. And people come at me. Do you know who's made me the best man and the best Bitcoiner and the best CEO I could possibly be? You guys. People have come for my ass plenty of times. But you take it to the chin. You take it like a champ. You take it under the notion that these people all want Bitcoin to be successful. That's all we all want at the end of the day. So I just don't find it helpful to be super hostile and defensive and protect. He was like, don't talk about these treasury companies. You're not allowed to criticize them. I don't know, I just found it weird. I found it weird that he said buying equity in these companies is better than buying Bitcoin. I don't think that's true. Found that strange. And I have the same skepticisms. If Danny wants to host a podcast with me and Michael and we can talk about this topic, I share the same questions. Can you just register a company, take it public, put Bitcoin on its balance sheet, and then just sell equity forever at a premium to the net asset value? And it looks to me like the answer is no. Which is not the fact that I'm stating a fact and people are going to get offended by this is insane. It looks like the answer is no. Almost all of these companies are trading at a discount to the net asset value. Which, people say, oh, it's impossible to saturate a $400 trillion arbitrage, or I don't know, I've seen tweets like that. Do you understand the size of this opportunity? You think it's going to be saturated by 20 companies? Maybe. That's what it looks like. It looks to be pretty saturated. And so for 21, we fundamentally believe in having an operating company. It's going to be focused on Bitcoin and focused specifically on cash flow. We think if what we want and what our shareholders want is to acquire leverage, to acquire more Bitcoin, financing that with just common equity dilution or having to sell our Bitcoin, we think a third option, having cash flow, as far as we're concerned, the market is really interested in a vehicle like that at our size and scale. So I don't know, is it a bad thing that I have these ideas and I'm willing to talk about it? Again, no one's the CEO or king of Bitcoin. No one can tell me what to think or what to question. And in fact, healthy, open public discourse like this is what's gotten us here in the first place. Like, there's a lot of people that want to tell everyone else what to do that weren't here 15 years ago, 10 years ago. We got here by being an open source project. And you will have to walk into my house and unplug my node to stop me from being the Bitcoiner I've always been. Anyways, found it strange. I don't think any of Danny's questions were unreasonable. I don't know what offense, maybe, and listen, dude, I'll also say this. Being a public company officer is hard. Being a public figure is hard. Michael has those things like 10 times at least greater than I do. People have bad days. There's misunderstanding. There's miscommunication. I don't know. I'm not Michael. I don't know. So this shit's hard. I don't know. He's done 1,000 podcasts, and if one of them, he unfairly snapped and, whatever, I don't know. But yeah, the other thing too, I don't know. I genuinely don't know if some of these Bitcoin treasury companies should trade above NAV. Why would they? Implied in their structure is they have to sell a lot of common equity. So think about it. Buying spot Bitcoin, physical Bitcoin, cost you zero, right? You buy, after you acquire the asset, you buy the Bitcoin, but there's no ongoing cost structure. Once you own the Bitcoin, you put it in cold storage. That's your property, as we just went over, and life goes on. Buying IBIT, I think, is like 25 basis points or 20 basis points or 15 basis points. There's some ongoing cost structure because you're not buying actual Bitcoin. You're buying a security listed by BlackRock to get Bitcoin exposure. And that costs you whatever, 25, what is it? Let's see. Let me look it up real quick. It is 25 basis points. Okay. Buying something like MSTR is like over 1% in expense if you're a common shareholder, because you are paying the preferred equity expense via dilution. Right? And this is the thing, the fact that we're trying to create a culture where I'm not allowed to ask this question is insane. I will not be silenced. But I think that's the case, right? If a company has about $1 trillion of annual payments that they must make, and the way they pay for them is via common equity, then holding MSTR is significantly more expensive than holding IBIT. And both of them are significantly more expensive than just buying normal Bitcoins. And so, yeah, I guess the theory is that MSTR is delivering shareholders more value than the expense it's burdening them, which I guess could be the case, but hasn't been so far. I don't know. I'm sure this is going to get clipped and put in all these, communities on Twitter, and people are going to yell at me. Hey, on my tombstone, one thing they can't say is that I wasn't a real one. I keep it real. And like I said, my career has been full of people saying, hey, you're being a fucking idiot and you fucked up. And I take it to the chin and I try and get better and move on. I don't know. So if I'm being an idiot and I'm wrong and I need to watch my mouth and, never ask curious questions, let me know. But common shareholders of these companies are burdening a very serious expense, tremendously more expensive than IBIT. So I feel like it's a fair question. And MicroStrategy, by the way, is in a world of its own. Obviously it has 3% of the Bitcoin supply. So, what about the other much smaller ones? How are they supposed to deal with the lack of network effect and economies of scale? I don't know, man. And by the way, I'm happy to, like I said, I am for the people, for the free markets, for the open dialogue. If Danny wants to have Saylor and I on, happy to. Not trying to offend anyone. Those are my thoughts. I don't really get what happened. I don't get what Danny said that was so disrespectful. Especially in Bitcoin. I mean, of all the things that have been disrespectful in Bitcoin, definitely wasn't that. I mean, I've seen some disrespectful shit said. It was not that. Okay, strike questions. When can we expect the line of credit? It will start to roll out in February. So we are, weeks away from the beginning of the rollout. When is strike coming to Canada? Eventually we will. We're working on it. It's a slower process because of all the licensing required to make it work, unfortunately. When will strike come to Paraguay? We are live in Paraguay. If you're in Paraguay, download the app. Check it out. If you have an issue, reach out to us and support. Hey, Jack, does Strike service customers in Puerto Rico? Yes, we do service customers in Puerto Rico. Got one more random question. Dylan has these other questions that aren't related to Bitcoin or Strike or 21, so I always like at least one of these. Okay, Dylan, please choose my question. Hi, Jack, fellow hodler and carnivore for the last few years. My questions are, what is your favorite cut of meat, and where is your all-time favorite steakhouse? Wow, I love this question. My favorite cut of meat is probably the ribeye. I mean, if I had to choose one, like pound for pound, it just doesn't get any better than a ribeye. I think that ribeye is just the unequivocal GOAT. It's got enough fat. It's the best, and it's really hard to miss. I don't know if I've ever had a bad ribeye. People can cook it poorly and ruin it, but like you can get a ribeye anywhere in the world at any quality restaurant, and it's a good meal. Okay, the second part, what's my favorite steakhouse? Let's start in Chicago. Maple and Ash here in Chicago is just one of my favorite dining experiences. The food, the ambiance, the vibe is just great. 10 out of 10. I love the staff. They treat me so well there. I mean, I've got to be one of the best customers they've ever had. So I love them. They love me back. Bavette's also in Chicago has to be mentioned. You can't talk about steak without mentioning Bavette's. So I would say those two in Chicago are the ones for me. I'm trying to think globally. There's a few, there's a steakhouse in Amsterdam that I really, really like. I don't know it off the top of my head. Anyway, I'll do Maple and Ash and Bavette's for Chicago will be the answer, and ribeye. And I'm glad Dylan chose your question. Shout out to all the hodlers and carnivores out there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, it's been an hour and 40 minutes. I'm going to go probably eat a ribeye, actually. Say hi to my girlfriend. So I will talk to you guys on the flip side. Much love. Give me all the comments, questions, concerns. You can't hurt my feelings. As I've said, all right, I got to cut it out. As I've said before, you guys make me better. It's a humbling, it's just fun to be a part of this with you guys. We are living through the coolest timeline ever. I mean, what a time to be alive and be part of change. This is unbelievable. So I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I'll read all the comments, and I'll see you next week. And with that, peace and love.